While flying over a remote area, Pilot Jack noticed a strange sight below, a group of animals running in circles. Intrigued by the unusual behavior, he decided to land nearby to get a closer look. As he got closer to the animals, his stomach dropped. What he discovered upon landing forced him to call the police immediately. 911, what's your emergency? A voice said on the other end of the line. Jack hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to describe what he was seeing. I think I need the police, he said uncertainly. When the dispatcher paused briefly, Jack knew he had to explain the situation more, but he also knew the dispatcher would never believe him. All right, I have your location. Police are on their way, the dispatcher eventually said. But as he hung up the phone, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back, and everything turned black. When he woke up again, his face was cold from lying in the snow for a long time and his body ached, but the pain was nothing compared to what he saw around him. His eyes grew wide with shock as he slowly got up and turned in a circle. His heart raced as he hoped the police would get to his location sooner rather than later. But why? Were the animals running in circles? What had hit Jack in the back? And what did he see when he woke up? But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Jack was a hobby pilot and owner of his own helicopter. Every weekend he would fly around, enjoying the views. But this time, he saw much more than just a beautiful sky and a pretty horizon. As he looked down into one of the snowy fields, he saw what looked like a large hole. But as he lowered his helicopter, he saw that it was actually moving around. After landing his plane perfectly, Jack walked to the place where he had seen the animals. He could hear their hooves hitting the ground as they ran at full speed, even before he was close enough to see them. Finally, he stood face to face with a group of animals, and he gasped loudly. It was a group of deer larger than he had ever seen before. It was like they were in a trance. Suddenly, Jack spotted something in the middle of the circle. His eyes grew wide in shock as he scrambled for his phone and dialed 911. As he hung up the phone, Jack suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back. He fell to the ground and everything turned black. He had no idea how long he had been knocked out on the ground. But when he woke up, again, one side of his face was numb from the cold, and his clothes were soaked because of the snow. Jack wiped his forehead, smearing the blood mixed with snow. The world spun as he attempted to orient himself, but all he saw was the endless swirl of white. The near miss snapped him to the harsh reality of his situation. He was in the middle of nowhere. The sound of hooves pounding the ground became a constant echo around him. More deer dashed by, their eyes wide with fright. Despite the throbbing pain in his head and the numbing cold, Jack knew he couldn't stay still. He glanced around, spotting a cluster of trees nearby. He quickly scanned his surroundings, realizing the forest might offer some cover from the stampede. Attempting to navigate through the trees, Jack aimed for what he thought was a safe path. But the unpredictable nature of the stampede proved too much. He was sideswiped by a deer, thrown off balance. This fall was a brutal reminder of his vulnerability in this untamed environment. He pushed himself up, his breath visible in the cold air, as he took a moment to assess his injury. The sounds of the stampede still echoed around him, a constant reminder of the danger he was in. He knew he had to keep moving, to find a way out of this perilous situation, despite the overwhelming odds against him. Jack, catching his breath behind a tree, peered out at the enclosing ring of deer. Jack noticed a less dense area within the circle. He observed the pattern of the deer, timing their movements. This path, risky as it was, seemed like his best chance to get away from the outer edges of the stampede, where he was more exposed to danger. Jack waited for the right moment. As soon as a gap widened, he seized his chance. Pushing off from the tree, he sprinted with all his might towards the center, dodging the startled deer. Reaching the relative calm of the center, Jack allowed himself a moment to catch his breath. The difference was stark. The frenzied motion and noise of the stampede were now at a distance, surrounding him, but not engulfing him. As Jack steadied himself in the center, a flicker of memory returned. He had seen someone before everything went black. He turned in place, trying to spot any movement in the trees that encircled him, his heart rate accelerating with the fear of the unknown. The deceptive piece of the circle made Jack understand that danger wasn't only coming from the stampeding deer. Jack's initial panic morphed into decisive action when he spotted a huddled form near a tree. The figure was still, almost blending into the snowy background. As Jack neared the figure, he could see it was a man, unconscious and looking worse for wear. He knelt beside him, checking for any signs of life. This discovery was a grim reminder of the situation's severity, showing that the stampede had affected more than just himself. Jack prepared to drag the man towards what he hoped would be safety. Jack carefully examined the man, noticing that his injuries were not only from the stampede. There were bruises and cuts that seemed to have come from an earlier encounter. Jack's mind raced as he tried to piece together what could have happened to this stranger before they found themselves in the midst of the chaos. He gently checked the man's vitals, confirming he was still alive but in urgent need of medical attention. Despite the uncertainty and danger, Jack knew he couldn't leave the man behind. He made a quick decision to help, understanding the risks involved but driven by a deep sense of responsibility. With determination, Jack prepared to move the man to a safer location, knowing that staying put was not an option. His resolve to act, even in the face of danger, highlighted his inherent compassion. Jack started dragging the man towards the center of the circle, a place he deemed relatively safer. Each movement was calculated, ensuring they remained as hidden as possible from whatever dangers lurked. This delicate maneuver between safety and exposure tested Jack's wit and strength as he navigated through the snowy terrain, carefully avoiding any sudden movements that could attract unwanted attention. As Jack moved the stranger, he couldn't help but wonder about the man's identity and how he ended up here. The mystery surrounding the injured man added a layer of intrigue to their already precarious situation. Who was he? Why was he here? These questions lingered in Jack's mind as he focused on finding a secure spot within the circle, away from the immediate danger of the stampeding deer. Jack's efforts to save the man were a testament to his empathy and willingness to help others, even in the midst of chaos. This act of compassion, risking his own safety for a stranger, underscored the human ability to care for others in critical situations. As he settled the man in a safer location, Jack remained vigilant, ready to protect them both from whatever came next. Jack, with quick thinking, tore pieces from his clothing to create makeshift bandages for the injured man. He carefully wrapped the wounds, trying to stop any bleeding and offer some protection against the cold. As Jack tended to the man's injuries, a silent understanding formed between them. Even without words, their actions in the face of adversity spoke volumes. This emerging bond between Jack and the injured man served as a beacon of humanity amidst the chaos. It was a clear reminder that even in the most extreme conditions, kindness and a determination to help others can prevail. Their situation was dire, yet the act of caring created a light in the darkness, showcasing the best of what it means to be human. Jack worked feverishly to improve their shelter, piling up snow around them for insulation. Every second mattered as he scrambled to gather more branches to fortify their makeshift refuge. The cold was relentless, seeping into every gap he hadn't covered. The injured man stirred slightly, a faint murmur escaping his lips. He leaned closer, encouraging the man to stay awake and fight through the pain. Jack noticed a change in the deer's behavior. They seemed to slow down, their circling less frantic. This shift in their movements provided a momentary sense of relief, hinting that perhaps the situation was evolving. The possibility that the animal's changed behavior could signal an upcoming rescue filled Jack with cautious optimism. He continued to adjust their shelter, check on the injured man, and keep a lookout for any signs of rescue. Suddenly, the distant sound of sirens cut through the silence, a beacon of hope in the snowy expanse. Jack perked up, his heart racing with the promise of rescue. The sound grew steadily, a confirmation that help was indeed on its way. He whispered words of reassurance to the injured man, promising that help was close. The sirens grew louder, a clear indication that the rescue team was drawing near. He prepared himself and the injured man for the arrival of their rescuers, mentally running through what needed to be done to ensure a smooth evacuation from their makeshift refuge. The rescue team arrived with precision and efficiency. Paramedics, accompanied by police officers, quickly assessed the situation, their movements practiced and coordinated. Jack felt a rush of relief as these professionals took charge. Paramedics immediately tended to the injured man, providing first aid and preparing him for transport. As the injured man regained consciousness, he shared his story with Jack and the rescuers. He revealed that he was a local deer farmer and that the stampede was actually a protective act by the deer against a wolf threat. This explanation shed light on the mysterious behavior of the deer, offering clarity and a deeper understanding of the events that unfolded. After the commotion settled, the farmer, now on his feet, turned to Jack with a look of profound gratitude. He extended an invitation to his farm, a gesture symbolizing not just thanks, but an offer of friendship. This invitation represented a new chapter, a bridge built from shared adversity, offering both men a chance to explore a future friendship forged in unexpected circumstances. This gesture from the farmer to Jack marked a poignant end to their shared ordeal. It was a moment filled with warmth and human connection, contrasting sharply with the cold and chaos they had endured together. As the authorities concluded their rescue operations, they made sure that everyone involved was safe and accounted for. The efficiency and care with which they operated ensured that the ordeal ended with no further harm. This final act by the rescue team was a testament to their dedication to safeguarding life, bringing a comforting closure to the events of the day. The day's events concluded with a note of optimism. Despite the challenges faced, the strength found in adversity and the unexpected bonds formed were a beacon of hope. Jack looked towards the future, inspired by the resilience and friendship that emerged from the ordeal. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always a possibility for light and new beginnings.